So Blackburn Rovers will enter the international break with a bit of a spring in their step after a controversial point against Middlesbrough. How did they do it? What went wrong? I'll tell you all about it next. That's right, folks, back once again with another match review, looking back at Blackburn Rovers' last match, heading into the international break, up against Middlesbrough, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. If you're new, where you've been, smash your subscribe and get you bang up to date with all things Blackburn Rovers related, championship related, world football related. We got it all here, boys. Under one Rooski, that's right, Rovers coming out of it 1-1 against Middlesbrough down at the Riverside, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Of course, a big shout out to the VIPs. They are the Patreons, boys and girls. Of course, yes, of course, get themselves a decent result at tricky Middlesbrough, of course. So yes, so of course, happy with that. Of course, heading into this, I would have taken it, of course, at kick-off, but there were chances where we could have actually gone away with absolutely nothing in this game. So let's take a look at the numbers that matter then, shall we, as we got into the deep end, of course, and break this game apart, of course. 1-1 in the end it was. That's right, goals from Sam Gallagher on the 17th minute before a bit of a zinger as well. If you haven't looked at the goal, seen it, you might want to go to my Twitter feed, check that sucker out. It's a ripper. Of course, goal of the month contender, definitely for Rovers anyway. It'll be there at the end of the season, but of course it could be up there for the championship as well. Definitely goal of the day. But of course it was only short-lived. Of course, what was it, 20 minutes later, Jonny Howson with a breakaway effort, and he Peter Dinklaged over the top of Kaminsky, who was lucky. Well, we were lucky that we had him today, of course, doing very, very well. As you see, it was a bit of a one-sided effort. I'll talk about those red cards at the bottom there in a minute, but it was definitely a one-sided game. 61% possession going in favour of Middlesbrough. We had 39. They had 11 shots for them, 6 for us as well, with 4 of them on target, just one for Rovers. Of course, that was in the back of the net. Ripper, of course. 377 passes for Boro, 240 for us. Pass accuracy was off. It was a very, very makeshift effort by Rovers, and we were lucky to get a point out of this one. Of course, there was, when we did take the lead, I thought we might have deserved the lead at that time, but after that it was one-sided traffic. Middlesbrough were very unlucky not to come away with more than the point. However, the game did change briefly for Middlesbrough on the 79th minute, with Hayden was shown a second yellow to go down to 10 men. Rovers' first red card of the season goes to the honour of Hayden Carter, and of course Sam Morsy followed up straight away with a straight red card. Nasty tackle on Magalori as well. To be fair, a lot of Rovers players today looked a little bit rusty, a little bit shit, and I think we need to either bring in some more experience. I know the young loans are good, but sometimes we do need a Harrison Reed or guys who have played football a little bit more than what we've done. The Pineda guy, Pavida, Clarkson, this match I think was a bridge too far for them. I'm hoping it's not a sign for things to come, because it just looked a little bit out of place, as did Carter, as did Tyler Magalori. 4 players I thought we were carrying a lot today. So let's take a look at the starting lineups. Let's start with Boro and get that out of the way. Of course, Lumley between 6, Fry, Hall and McNair at the back there. Jones on the left hand side, I thought he was the man of the match. I don't know why they gave him a 6.7. He was phenomenal today. He had all the time in the world down that left hand side, caused all kind of problems. They opted to go down the left to our right. Of course, they probably saw Hayden Carter as the weak link, and of course probably got it right with that red card for him. So Howson in midfield alongside Taverner. Morsy, of course, he is a shithouse extraordinaire, and Jig Steele on the right hand side. Again, down the right hand side they weren't having as much joy going forward, but Rovers with Pickering, I do think they've got a gem on their hands there to hopefully keep that his own for the next 3 or 4 years. Moving forward, they had Watmore and Crooks, of course, leading the charge there. Of course, not necessarily strikers, but of course filling the void as well for the time being. As for Rosa, committee between 6, Pickering, Ayala, Lennon and Carter at the right back there. Of course, it's a 4-5-1 here, but more like a 4-2-3-1. There we had Rothwell, Travis in those holding midfield slots with Clarkson, Pavida, Ocampo, of course, and Diaz with Gallagher up top, allegedly anyway. It depends on how you look at it. But yes, as you see, 61% possession going for Middlesbrough. Aerial duels were won by Middlesbrough, only just though 19 to 18. Tackles 14 on the ground. They had more corners than us as well. They're pretty much all going in favour of Rovers. Maybe down here, this graphic here will show the how things were panning out. Of course, it was very, very even in the first few minutes. Rovers then put their foot on the gas. The blue representing Rovers taking the lead within this. Of course, slowly but surely, Middlesbrough get themselves back into the game. And again, it was all Middlesbrough into the second half. No real efforts. Again, towards the back end of the game, I think we were trying to get something out of it, or more than the point. But ultimately, you know what? This is not a bad result. It's a good result. Just one defeat so far for Rovers. We'll keep it. We'll put it in the bag and go again. And again, a much more favourable schedule on the Rovers for the month of September. We've come out of this. We've played Swansea, who were in the playoffs last season. We've played West Brom, who probably will get promoted. We've played Middlesbrough, who have been in that sticky sort of wicket. And Forest, you just don't know what's going to happen with Forest. And of course, Millwall are always a tricky sort of unit. So decent 3 matches away from home, 2 home games, of course. So not too shabby. The standouts for me today, when you look at that, Ayala still looks commanding. Lennon looked a little bit ropey as well, not as strong as Ayala. Of course, Ayala started becoming a real key component of our back four. Carter looks a little bit. I don't know what's going on with Nyambe. I'm hoping that we can. Fair enough for Carter coming in to fill the void. It's not his preferred spot. It's his natural position. So it's fair enough for him to standing up to take that spot to making it keeping it occupied while Nyambe gets fit. Moving forward, Diaz looked a bit off. Gallagher with a cracking goal. Clarkson and Pavida for me. I think Pavida got the assist. But for me, I think he's still very, very rusty. But you know what? It's okay. They got out of it. We got out of this result with a decent point, and we'll go on again and go for the next one. Let's take a look at the shot grid then, shall we? Of course, the Blues are Rovers. Cracking goal from Gallagher. If you haven't seen it, like I said, check on the older Twitter feed. You'll be able to see it right there. As for Boro, though, they were very, very unlucky not to get more than what they got. They had 540 touches compared to our 400. We lost possession more times than they did. We threw in more tackles as well, and of course, many shots more than us as well. So ultimately, we got out of jail on this one. We got out of jail, and as you see, these were the busy components here. Morsy with a couple of shots himself, Crooks as well. Tavernier with it was a little bit unlucky as well. McNair from the back. As for Rovers, our shots coming from Lenihan, Diaz with a couple, and Gallagher with 3. So he's starting to prove that he is a goal scorer, and hopefully we can get 10, 15 goals out of him as well. So far so good. That's another caveat or another takeaway from this part of the season. I know we don't have Armstrong anymore, and there is rumours that we might get another striker in over the next couple of days. But Gallagher and Diaz have got themselves up and running with a couple of goals as well. So that's not too bad for that. This is the heat map grid then for you. Of course, Boro with, of course, all the possession and pretty much all over the grass as well. Just a little bit of a pocket in there in the midfield where they were not as dominant as they should be. As for Rovers, again, down the for the most part, a lot of the possession was coming down the right-hand side, so Pickering didn't have as much joy down the left, even though they did come down this left-hand side, but for the most part, we opted down the right-hand side. I guess that's where the ball was, and Kiminski was, of course, the busiest man on the pitch at the moment, trying to keep Middlesbrough at bay. But anyway, that's just a little take of what I think about this match. What about Tony Mulberry? Well, here are his thoughts, of course, at the final whistle, at his old stomping ground, the Riverside.
What did I make of it? Well, it wasn't very nice, but I think it takes 2 teams to play a football match. Middlesbrough really deny you playing football. They're very, very combative and man for man in midfield. I think it was a real eye opener for young Clarkson and Pavida today to play against that. And but we stuck at it. Listen, it was no fluency to the game. I thought Ayala was immense. That's why he's here, and yet it does give us a conundrum of if we want to be more ball possession orientated. That's very difficult with Daniel doing what he does, because he's an old school centre half who wants to head every ball and not necessarily too bothered about giving passing angles and positional play. But we decided to try and nullify their threat of their wing backs, and I think it became a game of attrition, didn't it? Not much. It wasn't a great spectacle if you were watching it. It was a bit, as I said, bit of blood and thunder. Ultimately 2 sending offs. I don't know whether it was a game for 2 sending offs, but there you go. We take the point and move on. No. I think he tried to kick a ball. I got headed back in the box, didn't he? And the boys put his head in, and it's football. I think the ref might have used a bit more common sense, but there you go. We have to accept it. I don't think it was a bad tackle. I don't think it was pulling anybody back. I don't think he's clattered anybody. Like his first booking was definitely a booking. It was just a young guy going for the ball, really. But and I'd have to say, I can't even see the second red card, Morsy's red card. I don't know, referee's been really quick to get his card out, but obviously I'm not sitting here complaining about it. I'm sure I'll let Neil do that, complaining about that. But yeah, so it's, as I said, listen, it wasn't a great football match for us. It was a game where we had to dig in, and I think you can see the makeup of our team. We've got a pretty inexperienced young midfield, and they played against a very experienced traditional midfield today, and found it difficult at times, and yet we came away with a point, and we'll put it in the bag and move on.
Meanwhile, what's been said on social media, we're going to go back a little bit. Yes, Chris BRFC said, awful performance, but a point is better than none. Let's get some players in and back from injury, then go again against Luton. Meanwhile, we've got tough watch that, but we'll take the point. Some bits of brilliance, but the team hasn't quite clicked yet. Again, they were throwing in a couple of players in the deep end that I thought might have been a bit too soon, especially for a game of this magnitude. What else do we have? We have Jack saying take the point, get some bodies in during the international break, and then go for it. Darren Coleman said take that. To be honest, sometimes you just have to grind out a result. Indeed, Matt Hornby said decent point on the road. Jorge Valencia, of course, the Chile guys are not happy. They're saying hashtag free Ben. Umair, or aka RX, whatever that is, says we were meh. I'll take a point down to 10th. But after the break, let's get back onto the winning form. Indeed, Matthew said, lucky to get a point there. Anthony Houghton said, lucky point, and the ref was kind to us. So stop with the refs are against us. They're just shit in the EFL for teams. Rovers TV commentators said Boro just edge it overall. It's a bell end here, but so they had a nailed on pen, missed. Our youngsters coming on look better than the Prem loans. That I agree with. No, in fact, maybe not. That's a bit, that could go either way. I'm not sold on the loanies just yet, and again, some of the youngsters were a little bit shaky as well. Talk of me was said from the fixtures we've had. Our start has been pretty good. Lots of positives and more signings to come. Hopefully, all settled in after the international break. That's what I'm talking about. Get them settled in. Mark Whittle said, didn't watch the game but followed it on here. Sounds like we really had to dig in again. This team is so far this season showing plenty of grit and fight though. Good point at Boro and a solid start to the season. It is a solid point to the season. That's what the main takeaway from this is, that we ground out the point. We kept on keeping on, and of course just the one defeat so far this season, which is great. Let's take a look at the results elsewhere. Of course, in the Championship, we've got one more game left, but Derby County against Nottingham Forest was a 1-1 draw earlier. Meanwhile, Bristol City picked up an away day winning against Cardiff. Preston big winners over Swansea 3-1. QPR 2-0 winners over Coventry as well. Fulham go top of the league, I think 3-0 win over Stoke. That's right. Luton 0, Sheffield United 0. Yet to get going they are. Of course, Huddersfield big winners over Reading 4-0. Could be a bit of trouble for the manager over at Reading. We got Millwall 2, Blackpool 1. Lastminute.com defeat there for Blackpool. Barnsley 1, Birmingham 1, Hull City 0, Bournemouth 0. So good points there for Hull. And of course, who was the other one? Luton. Of course, you would fancy the ex-Premier League teams to run away with it, especially if it goes those guys. Of course, Peterborough take on West Brom later on today. Let's take a look at, of course, the table as it stands. Of course, Fulham are leading the charge. 2 points clear over QPR, looking absolutely good at the moment. Yet to taste defeat. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams unbeaten. Bournemouth are unbeaten, but of course they're down into 6th right now. Stoke down to 5th, of course. But it is very, very tight. Rovers are doing okay into 10th. As for today's opponents, Middlesbrough, they are beneath us into 13th, of course, as well. Forest, Sheffield United and Blackpool going down as it stands. What's going to happen after the international break? Let's have a look at it. Rovers take on Luton Town. Addy Wood, so happy with that one. Middlesbrough will take on Coventry City on the road, difficult one that one will be as well. Birmingham though against Derby, that'll be the Friday night kickoff. Reading against QPR will be on Saturday. The Baggies take on Millwall, Bournemouth take on Barnsley, Coventry of course Boro, Stoke against Huddersfield, Sheffield United against Peterborough, Swansea against Hull, Blackpool will take on Fulham, Bristol City against Preston, and then on the 12th, which will be Sunday, Nottingham Forest take on Cardiff City. Of course, so all those games to look forward to when we come back from the international break. Speaking of the international break, a lot of stuff happening on the channel. We've got international football coverage, we've got a lot of Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, early picks coming out as well, so make sure to check that out. Again, if you're new, smash your thumbs up, smash your subscribe, check out the links down below. I'm on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and of course Patreon. If you want to support the channel in another way, that's the best place to do it. Also, check out the Discord, it's wide open. And until then, boys, that is it. I'm content with this. I think a point here at Riverside will be a massive point in the grand scheme of things when we look back at this come the end of the season. I'm not saying it's going to be a point that gets us into the top 6, but it's a point enough that we probably would have lost last season. There's not been a superstar standout for Rovers, and hopefully we're going to have an exciting end to the transfer window, maybe having 2 or 3 new faces, maybe even 4 new faces coming in to strengthen the cause. Rovers have been pretty quiet for the most part, and we have lost a lot of beef in midfield. I think it does need to be reshaped, that midfield. Travis, yes, of course, he's tenacious and all that, but we do need some experience in there. We're relying too heavily on the kids, and of course the kids do lack a bit of quality in the end. But that's my thoughts anyway. Let me know your thoughts, of course, down below. Of course, I look forward to seeing it. Until then, I'll see you soon for the next one. Until then, we are out.